You are listening to the Intelligent Vocalist Podcast, episode 94.
Welcome to the Intelligent Vocalist with John Henny. This is the podcast dedicated to help you be a smarter, better, more informed singer. And now, your host for the Intelligent Vocalist, John Henny.
Hey there, this is John Henny. Welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Vocalist. I do so appreciate you spending your precious listening time with me. And today, I want to celebrate the lowly consonant. I've often said, and continue to say, that the music is in the vowel. And vowels are vitally important. And balancing vowels and tuning vowels is so critical to getting the tone you want, to fixing registration issues, to being able to sing strong high notes. And I will say that the music is in the vowel, and that consonants are bits of noise that give us language, that separate the vowels. And that's actually not only not entirely accurate, it's kind of wrong. So I need to give myself a bit of a timeout here. For having said that, consonants are vitally important. And what consonants do is much like the difference between an instrumentalist and a percussionist and all the drummer jokes about drummers not being musicians. The consonants are your version of language's drummer. And we use consonants to drive rhythm. They give us phrasing. We have the wonderful contrast between stop plosives like the P sound and the B, and these hard sounds like G versus the gentle sh, or even glides like Y's and W's, wa, ya. And great songwriters use consonants to propel their music, to give it rhythmic bite. That's one of the great things that you can get from rap and hip hop is just the rhythmic accuracy and the way that these musicians, and yes, I will use the word musician. I absolutely, rappers are musicians. I believe DJs are musicians. They are creating in the moment. They're remixing and reproducing, and they're also gauging by the audience's temperature and reaction and building climaxes and bringing things down, just like a great musician does. You have to be sensitive to the impact of sonics, of sound with human beings, and great DJs are very sensitive to that. And these great hip-hop artists who understand the sound of language and the rhythm of language and how to build with that and use it to great effect. And even if that's not what you do, I know some musicians, it's better, but they want to dismiss that side of music. And I believe that's a mistake. We need to learn from all kinds of music. And you want to start picking up on the rhythms and the accents that consonants will give you. And also there's this great musical device called alliteration, which is basically using words that start with the same sound. Famously, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. And alliteration will really guide how a song will be sung, even how a song is going to be composed. There's music even within the consonants, and certainly consonants are going to dictate rhythm and feel. Let's take a very famous one. It's not a huge string of alliteration, but We Will Rock You by Queen. And you get those W sounds, even into the R, which is very similar. We will rock. That wa provides a glide that folds perfectly into the melody. You notice that the melody doesn't jump. It's very it's this nice step down. So the W sound eases us into each of those steps. We will, and it's this nice springboard to the E and the I, which are both similar sounds. If we change the lyrics, which I know is going to be colored by the fact that you've always heard the original lyric, but if they didn't use alliteration there, and specifically if they didn't use that W sound, if they sang, let's all rock, it's ruined. The beautiful, seductive quality of the W is essential. Another one is Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell, where she sings, paved paradise, put up a parking lot. That, just when you hear it, paved paradise, put up a parking lot, the P's give you this beautiful pa-pa-pa-pa-pa. It's almost like beatboxing. And listening to great beatboxers should give you some information, inform you on how to approach these. Another one I really love is Peter Gabriel. He has this song called Secret World, which was not a hit, kind of an obscure track, but has one of my favorite lines of all time, which uses alliteration. And it's, so I watch you wash your hair, underwater, unaware. And the way he sings it and the melody line and then those W's, and then he revisits the W's again at the end of the chorus. What was it we were thinking of? And it just creates this beautiful, tied together sonic experience. And if he hadn't have used the alliteration, if he hadn't, what was it? If it was, what was I? No, that's not alliteration. What must I? It takes away from it. It's got to be the, what was it we were thinking of? Again, this nice glide down in the melody. And if you notice, going back to the Joni Mitchell, she uses the popping and her melody doesn't glide down. Her melody pops around like the sound of the P's. Paved paradise, put up a parking lot. And the melody is more percussive than We Will Rock You. Another great example, just because I've been obsessed with this song for the past week. It's just really odd. I've been rewatching the last season of The Sopranos because I've for the last decade plus been obsessed with that final episode. And now going back through and looking for all the symbolism and foreshadowing, and it's quite remarkable the way the show actually explains what happens in that final episode that at first everyone was completely confused about and what happened to Tony Soprano. But as you watch, they're definitely setting him up. He dies in the final episode. I'm convinced of it now. So I'm sorry if that's a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, I should have told you before. So there's a spoiler. Sorry about that. But you've had 12 years to watch the show. But they made a joke in there because Steve Van Zandt from the E Street Band plays a role in it. One of the characters quotes Born to Run as a joke. It's a not so inside joke in the show. And so I thought, oh, Born to Run, I haven't listened to that in a really long time. And I've just been playing it, and it's actually mind-blowing how brilliant Springsteen's vocal is on that. It's not something that voice teachers would likely hold up as perfect vocal technique, but just to express the pure, raw, explosive, youth-driven emotion of that song's lyric, the vocals just killing me. Not to mention the transitions that he does to the key change into the bridge and then back to the song is just wonderful. But I digress. In the chorus, baby, we were born. Baby, we were born to run. And that little popping of the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, it gives you, it makes sense why then you have that pause with to run. Baby, we were born to run. And now the run makes sense because now it is this nice glide sound into the vowel that's held. Whereas the babies are more of the part of the song that pops. So what I want you to do is really start breaking down songs and look at the lyrics and start finding alliteration. Start finding patterns of consonants. And then look at the melody and also the vocal performance and see how those consonants are influencing what the person is singing. And look and see if the consonants are also providing accents. Accents are so vitally important. I know I've done this before, but if I just go ahead and just play an eighth note pattern, if I'll just clap this, right? 1 and 2 and 3, nothing much going on there. As soon as I add accents, there's rhythm there. There's rhythm beyond just the eighth notes. It starts to actually become a little bit of music. I can say da 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 da, or I can say da 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 da. Accents are so vital. If you're recording vocals and you're finding that your vocal is just sounding a little flat and boring and you're not sure what it is, my guess is you may not be using accents to their best effect. Accents and dynamics. And I know in this current musical environment where everything is just mixed and processed to be super loud, it's easy to kind of forget about dynamics. But you want dynamics and you want accents and you want to create these little surges and pushes. You need to create things to wake up the listener. It's almost like a little tap on the shoulder. Hey, pay attention, pay attention. Because we are constantly being sucked away by a bombardment of sensation and thought and distraction. It's very hard if you've ever tried to meditate and just focus on your breath, how long you can really do that without being captured by thought. And if you are singing and there's not much variation, the listener's attention is likely to go astray. And a great way to bring subtle shifts in what you're doing and to reawaken the listener's ear is changes in phrasing and adding some accents, adding some surges and some emphasis, and then pulling back. And what you start to do is create pattern interrupts within the pattern. You see, music has to have recognizable patterns, or it doesn't become very listenable for very long. So there has to be that familiar, but within the reoccurring patterns, you've got to change it up. And before you go off on the very obvious and sometimes way too elaborate vocal stylings and riffing and changing the melody, just see if you can stay within that parameter, but find the music in the language. Where is the language telling you to do little pushes and pulls, little accents, and little unstresses? And then you can start to really feel what's going on in the music on a deeper rhythmic level. Now, on the last podcast, that would be episode 93, I went into essential rhythms. And I really encourage you to not only listen to that podcast, but start to drill those ideas. If you can become a rhythmic machine where you can really understand rhythm, feel rhythm, you can keep time internally without speeding up or slowing down, you know where the beat is, you know how to push forward with it, pull back with it, and then you can take language and find the rhythm in the language and do the push and the pulls and all of those wonderful things. You're going to start to become an amazing singer, and you're going to separate yourself in a way that's not dependent on having these soaring high notes. That's what everybody wants to chase. That's the golden ring. Higher, louder. Everybody wants to be higher and louder. And I'm encouraging you, while that's still a reasonable goal and something you should work on in your vocal lessons and your practicing. Man, I want you to be more musical, and I want you to be more rhythmic, and I want you to be more sensitive, and I want you to be more tied into language, the meaning of what you're saying, the emotional connection, and then the music within the sounds of the language itself. Just the sounds, apart from meaning. And if you can tie that all together with your particular artistic point of view, with what is the essence of you, all of those parameters filtered through the uniqueness of you, I think you may be onto something. This is what great singers do. This is why great singers are often copied but never truly matched, because they understand all of the aspects of music and all of the aspects of expression. And then they understand how important it is to truly be themselves. And here I am off again on a tangent, but a rhythm is a vital part of that, and the consonants are an absolute vital part of it. Now, a little caution for consonants. We have to be careful with them, especially on higher notes, because as we go to make a consonant, we are interrupting the flow of the vowel. And the vowels we can tune to have these very precise acoustic alignments and balances that really help us in the higher notes. But when you go to make an L sound or a P sound, a beat, there are no great acoustic elements in there that you can sustain in a musical way. You can't sustain a P sound or a B sound. An L has your tongue all the way up and blocking your mouth. I don't know why I just did the visual of my hand blocking my mouth, since this is a podcast. So that just served to just make me look understandable. But the tongue coming forward, it's going to destabilize you. The mouth closing for an M, the tongue coming forward for an N, those movements can be destabilizing. So we need to make sure that we're able to maintain and hold the vowel. And up there, the consonants have to be usually rather quick in the higher notes, but also less intense. So your G, your hard G, your G may have to be a little more G, where you just barely touch it, because again, the hard spoken G is going to tend to be unsettling and unbalanced. But that does not mean we eliminate the consonants or lose their importance or dismiss them as bits of noise, which I know some misinformed voice teacher has done in the past and will refrain from doing so in the future. It's find the music in the vowel. I did a show about the vocal color wheel, I believe I called it. Don't have it in front of me, but it's a few podcasts back. It's getting into the colors of the vowels, but get into the sounds of the consonants, the rhythms of the consonants, and your listeners will thank you for it. Hey, I love doing this podcast. I really appreciate the support I've been getting. I will tell you, I was just looking back at the numbers, and since December of this past year, just in the last 6 months, this podcast has tripled in listenership. And the podcast has been going for a few years, but it's really starting to catch on now. And I'm really enjoying doing this twice a week. So I really hope you are enjoying the extra episodes as well. If you want to support the podcast, please go to where you listen and leave a review. Now, while the little stars, I appreciate those. Say you go to the iTunes store and give me 5 stars. I love it. But also consider just writing something. Actually leave a written review. It really helps people find the podcast. You can also share it on social media, write about it on your blog, however you think you can help people find it. It's really gratifying to see the audience grow. If you have any comments or suggestions for upcoming episodes, my email is john@johnhenny.com. You can always go to johnhenny.com to find out more about me, some of the courses I offer, information on private lessons, get on my email list. It's all there. And until next time, to better singing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.